The red Havelock SUV fishtailed into my gravel drive at 219 Hawthorne Ferry Road, Oriole Notch, Michigan. A woman in a lemon visor leapt out, swinging a clipboard like a sword. "I'm Karen Ventnor, HOA president. That lake is ours. Dismantle your dock now," she said, making even the loons go quiet. I set down a cedar joist, hands shaking from age, not fear. "Name's Elias Drummond," I answered. "I moved in last week." She jabbed the waterline. "Daily fines. Retroactive. Your cabin violates Shoreline Ordinance 42. The crew froze. Her confidence worked on everyone but me. I'd buried bullies twice her size. The lake, Mallard Nook, gleamed like a mirror to my late grandfather's voice. Before we continue, please drop a like and comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Australia, midnight in New York, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France, I want to know. Don't just sit back, tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. Hold land steady, boy. I breathed in sawdust and old memories. Karen's SUV idled, coughing smoke like a warning. She thrust a notice into my vest pocket. "Last chance," she hissed. "Tear it down." I didn't move. Neighbors peeked from porches along Starling Switch Lane, faces tight with curiosity and fear. Karen pivoted to them, shouting, "He's trespassing on community assets." I saw shame ripple across the shoreline, people trained to obey, even when it hurt. She smirked, satisfied. "Meeting tomorrow. Pay up or else." Then she spun away. After she fled, the crew asked if we should pause. I waved them on. The planks thudded into place like heartbeats I borrowed from younger years. I kept hearing Karen's words, "our lake," bouncing against everything I knew about my grandfather's deeds. Something didn't fit. Paper bullies hid behind fog. I pulled the notice. Fines, threats, legal words arranged like teeth. No signatures from the county, only the HOA seal, a gull with a gavel. I laughed once, sharp as a snapped twig. The wind carried it across the water. Somewhere, a door slammed. Somewhere, an old truth stirred awake. Night fell early. I lit the lantern my grandfather used during ration years. Its glass had a hairline crack, a crooked smile. I set it near the new dock, listening to frogs tune the dark. I decided I'd visit the courthouse at dawn, alone. Karen wasn't the only one with papers. When I finally lay down on a cot inside unfinished walls, I heard tires on gravel again. Slow, careful. My hammer lay within reach. A shadow paused by my porch, then faded toward the water. The boards creaked under a stranger's weight. I held my breath and waited for the splash. No splash came, only a whispered apology drifting over the lake. I stepped onto the porch and found a teenager, jacket too thin for the cold. "I'm Rowan Pike," he said. "Karen fined Mom for my fishing. Said we used unauthorized riparian access. We can't afford groceries and her fees." His words knocked around my ribs. "You live on Kestrel Downs Court?" I asked. He nodded. "Karen says the docks are hers." I handed him a thermos of stew, my late wife's recipe. I said, "Tomorrow I'll check the records. We'll see who owns what." His eyes shone like whetstones. At sunrise, I drove my old Winfield pickup to the Vandervoort County Annex at 14 Ledger Spur. Gus Applin, the clerk, remembered me from youth baseball. He pulled brittle folders from a green cabinet labeled Drummond Holdings, 1947 to 1973. The air smelled like old rubber bands and secrets. "Brace yourself, Eli." He spread leases like playing cards. "Your grandfather's holding company, Hawthorne Ferry Trust, retained fee-simple ownership of the lakebed and shoreline. Every lot's a ground lease. Docks require lessor consent." He tapped a map, red pencils tracing the water like veins. "If this stands, the HOA can't bully you. They're tenants." I felt young and ancient at once. "So Karen's fines?" Gus shrugged. "Colorful fiction with letterhead." He flipped another page. "Late addendum, trust may assign rights to heirs." He circled my name, typed faint and certain. The room stopped breathing. I pictured Rowan's thin jacket and the widow down the lane. I copied everything and asked about the HOA charter. Gus frowned. Filed yes. But their enforcement powers exclude leased land. That's everything touching the lake. He slid me certified copies with that clerk's gentle mercy people never notice. Tread careful, Eli. Power flails before it falls. I nodded and left. On the courthouse steps, my phone buzzed, unknown number. Karen's voice oozed through. We're increasing your fines hourly. Consider this kindness before we involve liens. I let silence sit between us like a judge. Karen, I said, you're standing on my shore when you say that. She laughed. Prove it, old man. I hung up, lifted the folder to the light, and saw the watermark. Hawthorne Ferry Trust, a Drummond company. The seal looked like my grandfather's steady hand. I headed home, heart drumming like a mallet on a dock post. At the bend by Larch Hook Road, a patrol car flashed its lights. Deputy Nessa Trillo leaned in my window, freckles fierce. We gotta report you're obstructing community property. I held up the certified copies. She studied the seal, then the map. Her shoulders eased. I grew up here. My granddad leased his garden from this trust. She handed back the papers, thoughtful. Karen makes noise, Nessa said. Noise scares people. I asked if the HOA could stop my build. She shook her head. Not with this. But expect fireworks. She tipped her hat. Call me if it gets ugly. Her cruiser rolled away, leaving tire whispers and a thin trail of dust. Back at the cabin when my sister, Winona Drummond Reed, stood by the porch rail, in boots too clean for mud. We hadn't spoken since the will. You took the acreage, she said, soft and sharp, and left me the stalks. He favored you, Eli. Her eyes searched my face for apology I didn't own. When, I said, he left me stewardship, not a crown. She glanced at the lake. Karen called me. Offered to mediate if I urged you to comply. She says you're stealing community amenities. I handed her the leases. She read slowly, jaw setting. Good Lord, she whispered. Granddad built a trap. We walked the shoreline. Neighbors avoided our eyes. A man on Starling Switch Lane, Mr. Corwin Wraith, muttered, they fined me for painting a mailbox plum. A woman, Lyra Hembry, clutched an envelope labeled Violation, Wind Chimes. Shame sat in their hands like wet sand. Wynn looked at me. We can't leave this as paper. I gathered folks at dusk by the old birch snag. I'm Elias, I said. My grandfather's trust owns the lakebed and docks. Your leases are with us, not the HOA. No one owes fines for breathing near water. Murmurs rose, fear first, then hope. Karen's SUV headlights glared from the hill. She marched down, visor bright as a warning flag. Disperse, she ordered. Unauthorized meeting on common grounds. I raised the map to the lantern. These grounds are held by my family. The HOA is a guest, I said. Gasps fluttered. Karen smiled thinly. Then show us the ledger, she purred. All of it. I had copies, not originals. The trust's master ledger might still sit in my grandfather's locked trunk at the farmhouse in Richfield Hollow. If that trunk said what I hoped, Karen's paper sword would melt. Wynn put a hand on my arm. We go tonight, she said. Before she does. The spare key hid where Grandpa taught us, inside the hollow newel post. It scraped the lock awake. Papers sighed when the lid rose. Ground leases, notarized consents, maps stitched by thread. At the bottom lay a black notebook with his initials, E. Wynn touched it like a hymn book. Read, she said. Entries told a story of war pay saved, land bought acre by acre, promises written with a teacher's neat patience. He described forming Hawthorne Ferry Trust to shield neighbors from predatory lenders. A clipped receipt marked HOA consultants, rejected. He'd seen this coming. Someone would try to privatize the water with smiles. Then a letter in his tidy hand, addressed to the heir holding the lake. It said, if a president bullies, open the docks without price. Charge rent only to fund upkeep. Publish every coin. People will choose fairness when given light. A notarized assignment named me successor trustee at age 60. I breathed out, older and newer at once. Wynne read the rent schedule. Pennies, really, designed to pay for shared tools, tow lines, a winter plow. He made a commons, she said. A real one. I nodded. And a fuse, I added, pointing to the section titled Remedies Against Private Enforcement Bodies. The remedies were clean: retract access from violators, demand accounting from any group claiming authority, compel arbitration using trust terms. Wynne closed the notebook. We'll need a public meeting, she said, and a judge ready to swat nonsense. I tucked the book inside my coat like a living thing that warmed me. We locked the farmhouse and returned to Oriole Notch under stars like thumbtacks. At the bend near Lark Trestle, a truck blocked the road, chrome grille, vanity plate. HOAs. Karen stepped into our headlights, smiling as if greeting guests. Behind her, 3 board members held cameras. Deliver your papers, she said. Now. I killed the engine and stepped out, notebook in my fist. Tomorrow, I answered, when the sun watches. She tilted her head. Then I'll fine you for obstructing traffic. Wynne laughed once. Fine us for oxygen while you're at it. Karen's smile thinned. She opened her palm. Something small glinted there, my mailbox key. How did you get that key? I asked, keeping my voice slow and plain. Karen rolled it across her knuckles. Your crew dropped it. Convenient, isn't it? One board member, Aldous Pree, held a camcorder, red light staring. They wanted me angry on tape. I handed Wynne the trunk notebook. You want papers? I said. Let's give you papers. I pulled certified copies and held them up. My grandfather's trust owns the lakebed, docks, and shoreline. You have no enforcement power here. Any fines you collected touching water are invalid. Karen's laugh was too bright. Then sue me, she said. All of you. Wynne stepped forward. We will. But first, tomorrow's HOA meeting will be open to every leaseholder. I'll bring notarized originals. Karen's smile faltered. Originals, she repeated. Aldous lowered the camera, just a hair. Karen recovered. Fine. Bring them. We'll evaluate the forgeries. She tossed my key high. It flashed and vanished in weeds. We found it by feel, crawling the ditch like kids hunting fireflies. I pressed the cold metal into my palm and felt my heart slow. Back home, I stayed up writing a simple sheet in big letters. Who owns what you OW, what you don't. Rowan's stew thermos waited by the door. Morning drew neighbors like birds. The clubhouse at 17 Mallard Nook Loop filled with boots and whispers. Karen stood on a raised platform beneath a framed gull. Fines are due, she began. I raised my hand. Before dues, I said, title. I placed the trust ledger and assignments on a projector. Silence fell hard. Documents bloomed on the wall, dates, stamps, the assignment clause naming me successor trustee. Nessa the deputy stood by the door, arms folded. Karen cleared her throat. These could be fabricated. Nessa spoke. County seal is real. So is the watermark. I checked with Gus. Heads turned. Karen's jaw flexed like a misfired hinge. I kept my voice soft. Anyone fined for docks, fishing, porch chairs by the water, see me after. Funds will be escrowed pending audit. Effective now, dock access is free under trust rules. Rent, if any, will be public and tiny. Rowan's mother pressed a hand to her mouth. Someone began to clap. Karen slammed the gavel. Out of order, she snapped. The HOA is sovereign here. I tapped the section titled Remedies. Not on trust land, I said. The room buzzed. Karen pointed at me. Then we'll file an injunction. I nodded. Please do. Behind me, Wynne whispered, tell them the other party lie. I read from the ledger's companion sheet. Remedy 3, demand accounting from any entity charging for access on trust lands. I turned to the board. Please provide 5 years of financials, vendor contracts, and bank statements within 10 days. Aldous swallowed. Karen adjusted her visor. Our finances are private, she said. Not if you collect on land you don't control, I answered. Nessa stepped forward. Voluntary cooperation beats subpoenas, she advised. The room breathed again. I softened. We fix this together. Transparent, simple, neighborly. I pointed at the donation jar labeled Lake Beautification. This stays, but with receipts, names, and choices. Heads nodded like poplars. Karen pivoted. He wants power, she said. A new tyrant in old boots. I shook my head. I want stewardship. The trust wasn't built to rule, but to stop rulers. I slid forward a proposed dock lease. $1 a year, payable in canned goods for the food pantry. Laughter cracked the tension. Rowan's mother spoke up. She fined us for a blue cooler, she said, voice trembling. Said it disrupted shoreline aesthetics. Karen's visor dipped. Policies preserve value. I pointed to the children staring through the clubhouse glass at the water they'd been warned to fear. Value begins with joy, I said. Then pay the rest together. I ended with a date. Community vote next Saturday on replacing the HOA with a voluntary commons board per trust terms. Karen's smile returned, brittle. The HOA will not recognize that vote. I nodded. Then recognize a courtroom. She reached for the gavel again, hand shaking now. The head snapped off and skittered away. After the meeting, people lined up with envelopes. Rowan's mother wrote a letter brave enough to hold a town. The clerk date-stamped our hope at 9:12 a.m. Word spread faster than summer storms. Some neighbors brought cookies. Others brought fear. A man in a tie murmured, "Property values, Mr. Drummond. You're scaring buyers." I told him this. Trust builds value. Bullying sells quickly and breaks sooner. He didn't smile, but he left without frowning. That counted as progress here. Karen's lawyer, Mr. Willick Brand, sent a letter thick with Latin. He argued historical easements and customary use. I replied with photographs of my grandfather's signs from 1953, public welcome, by kindness, not coercion. When found receipts for rope, nails, coffee urns, proof he hosted work days, not compliance drills. Our history wasn't fancy, just sturdy. The judge, Honorable Perrin Loch, set a hearing for Wednesday, 10 o'clock, room B. The bench smelled like lemon oil. Karen wore pearls like armor. Willick spoke first, voice smooth. My client safeguards order. The judge raised a finger. On whose land? Willick cited bylaws. I offered deeds. The judge asked Nessa about seals. She nodded once. Trust controls. Judge Loch ruled provisionally. HOA may not fine for docks, shoreline, or lake use pending full review. Accounting is compelled. His gavel landed like rain after drought. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. Outside, Rowan fist bumped the air and tried to look like he hadn't. Wynn squeezed my arm until it hurt, on purpose. By sunset, Karen posted signs. Temporary closure, safety review. I posted mine. Lake open, kindness review. People laughed, a sound we hadn't heard echo across Mallard Nook in years. Then Aldous showed up at my porch with a shoebox of receipts and a face that said sorry. She made me sign, he whispered. A note in my grandfather's tidy hand said, renew only when kindness holds. My breath went tight. Wynn traced his words. He expected us, she said. Footsteps sounded on gravel. Karen stood in the doorway, raincoat hanging like an apology. I followed, she said. I needed to see what you'd do. I slid the tin toward her. Look, I said. She scanned the documents with lawyer's speed learned from necessity. Tears gathered without falling. I wanted safety, she said. People stopped mowing. Boats leaked oil. I made rules. Rules felt like safety. Wynn answered softly. Control only feels like safety when you're drowning. Karen exhaled, a long surrender. I'll testify, she said. I'll return what I can. I'll name the vendors. I nodded. We'll ask the judge for restorative terms, not ruin. She looked surprised. After what I did? I pointed at the note. Renew when kindness holds. Today is a start, not an ending. We drove back in quiet. Karen handed over passwords, bank access, and a list of shell companies. Aldous met us at the clubhouse with donuts like peace flags. Nessa scanned everything into evidence. By midnight, the fraud was mapped, the remedy drafted, the path home lit by porch lights that seemed brighter. Saturday dawned clear, a sky washed by honesty. Judge Lodge convened in the clubhouse by consent. Neighbors stood in a horseshoe. He read the consent decree, HOA dissolved, assets transferred to the trust commons, restitution plan measured in dollars and hours of service, Karen barred from leadership but welcomed as a worker. He looked at me last. Mr. Drummond, will you accept trusteeship? My knees complained as I stood. Yes, I said, but only with term limits, published ledgers, and a chair for any child who fishes here. The judge smiled. So ordered. Someone hooped. Rowan, probably. The loons sang like they'd practiced. That night I sat on my porch, 80 years old in a world with new lungs. Then a moving truck turned onto Starling Switch Lane, backing toward Karen's house. My heart dipped. A man climbed down, waved, and shouted, "Delivery for Drummond Holdings." Wynne stared at me. You expecting anything? I wasn't. The delivery held cedar posts, solar lights, and a plaque. The driver handed me a note. From Mallard Nook, for Mallard Nook. The plaque read, "The lake belongs to those who care for it, Hawthorne Ferry Trust." I laughed until my ribs hurt. Neighbors gathered to help set the posts along the path. We planted the lights in a line, a runway for every tired soul landing here. Rowan bolted the plaque onto a driftwood stand. Karen arrived with work gloves, silent, steady. She hauled gravel, stacked rope, took instruction like a student relearning breath. No crown, no visor, only a neighbor awkwardly stitching herself back in. Wynne posted the first transparent budget on the clubhouse door: ropes, ring buoys, planks, pantry stock. People wrote their names beside tasks: plow schedule, swim safety, winter watch. The dollar rent jar filled with canned peaches and jokes. We voted for the first Commons board under the birch snag. Rowan won the youth seat. At sunset, I finally read my grandfather's last page aloud. "You can't make more land," he wrote, "but you can make more welcome." I looked at the faces shining with sweat and relief. "This stays ours if we keep choosing each other," I said. The applause felt like windbell music finally allowed to ring. Karen approached me, hands shaking, and offered a small envelope. Inside lay a check marked restitution and a photo, her as a child on a dock with a woman I guessed was her mother. "It was quiet then," she whispered. "I wanted that quiet back." I nodded. "You can help build it, not police it?" Wynne squeezed my shoulder. "Granddad would approve," she said. I believed her. The lake took the sky into itself without asking permission. I breathed deep, cedar and water and something like courage. The cabin walls seemed straighter. The world seemed possible. Even my old bones felt like useful tools again. We ended with a night paddle, lanterns bobbing like low stars. Kids counted frogs. Adults told truths. The docks held firm, not because of rules, but because of hands. When we beached the canoes, the solar lights clicked on, one by one, like promises keeping themselves. Years from now, if someone drives in angry and claims the water, I hope I still have enough voice to say, "Come see the ledger that matters." It won't be paper. It'll be ring buoys hung straight, ropes coiled neat, and neighbors who remember the drama, then choose the quiet together.